Good afternoon to all of you good people. It's for me a great honor indeed, great honor to be in the presence of all of you, but particularly such remarkable, such inspiring souls as we've just heard. And that's a beautiful speech that was made. I got the context of it, made by Guru Swamiji. Passion at his age, passion for dignity, for liberty, for freedom, for truth. It's almost like we were living through the times of Mahatma Gandhi himself. Of course, it's also a unique honor to be here on the special invitation, a direction, if you like, of Chief Justice Venkachalayaji, who claims that I once refused something that he wanted me to do, but that I couldn't possibly have refused a second time. That would have been very impudent of me. And so I'm here, and I'm so glad that I see you in good health, sir, and I see you inspiring so many people. Justice Venkata Gopala Gowda has left a beautiful legacy behind in the Supreme Court, where we had the privilege to appear before him, and he's back here at home amongst you people, and I must say that adds value to Bangalore, and I'm so pleased that I am on the same stage with him here. When I sat down, I said, for the first time I will know what it feels like sitting between two judges. Almost, we've always seen them from the other side, but to see them from this side and to sit amongst them makes you feel both very responsible and also makes you feel wonderful that you're sitting with those who preside over our destiny. Professor Ravi Verma Kumarji, again, with vast experience, knowledge, and who would inevitably enlighten us with something great and wonderful. Professor Janab Mohammad Salim, Engineer Saab, who's both political and academic qualifications, make one careful about what one might be able to say in the presence of somebody so erudite. And finally, our host, Father Victor Lobo, with whom I share the association with a language, beautiful language, English language, which he teaches and I was taught. But I hope that both of us continue to serve that language as indeed we do our country and many other causes. Many other distinguished people present here, Pasha Saab, but certainly all of you as well, because without you we would not be anywhere. I thought about the topic that Forum for Democracy and Communal Amity has chosen today. It's a topic of extreme importance, and I was really concerned that we have two erudite judicial consciences with us today. And the topic, despite your having said that your forum is apolitical and that you don't take political sides, as it were, but you claim only to take the side of truth and what is good for the nation. But when I saw your note, I realized that we have sadly become such a divided society today, in minds, in hearts, in feelings, in the words that we speak. How difficult it must be for someone who has a judicial conscience to carefully craft their words and their wisdom to say something that is meaningful, that will provide us courage, but provide us inspiration, and yet which will not be treated, as often everything is treated in the country today, as being partisan. Simply because you say something which sounds not very welcome to a group or an individual, you are treated as being partisan. And I'll come for a moment to say a little bit more on that. But let me just say that the very point at which we find ourselves and the fact that we are urged to say something against something that we see as going wrong is carefully and wonderfully flagged by a little poem that was written by Pastor Martin Niemöller about Germany, of course, in the times when times were unpleasant in Germany. The poem is called First They Came. First they came. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Let that not be the destiny of our country and the destiny of our soul, that when we feel that now time has come to speak, there will be no one else to speak for us. So let us speak for the one who suffers first. Let us speak for the one who suffers now. Let us not think that it is about them and not about us. Quite often, you see a very close friend. You see somebody in the family. You see somebody you've known for years suffer an ailment that is incurable, an ailment that is terminal. And you know that that person's days are numbered. But you always have a feeling that this never happens to you. This always happens to someone else. It's the other person to whom it happens. And it is for you to pray, perhaps, to help, to reach out, but that it will never happen to you. But who knows that something that's happened to someone else will not happen to you, whether it's in your life, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your country, whether it's in your community, that it will not happen to you. Because once somebody tastes the blood of human beings, like a man-eating tiger, then there is no last victim. There is the next, and the next, and the next. So we must speak, but I do caution and warn, and I take inspiration from the honorable judges who are present here, that if the others speak with grossness, if they speak with hate, and they speak with rancor, and they speak with putrid words, it is no reason to answer them in the same manner. You can still answer with words of wisdom, with words of compassion, with words of sincerity, with words of meaning, with words of comfort. Because it's an eternal battle between evil and good. And Mahatma Gandhi, in his entire life, when we spoke of ahimsa, when he spoke of non-violence, when he spoke of not confronting violence with violence, but confronting violence with non-violence, the message of Jesus as well, that an eye for an eye will make the world blind. And therefore, perhaps we can still have confidence in our belief and faith that rancor and anger can be answered with love, with confidence, and with compassion. But that's a message that I believe you will hear again and again this afternoon. Because two erudite judges, two judges who, Chief Justice and an Honorable Judge, who have left an important imprint in the life of the jurisprudence of our country, I thought I would provoke them because that will help them say something when they come to the podium. And that's because we are on the Constitution. There are fundamental questions about Constitution. The issue about people who violate the Constitution is an issue on which we can all agree immediately. Constitution is, for us, the most valuable document of our living existence today. And therefore, we must stand and prevent any damage to that Constitution. But the Constitution also brings some interesting questions to the fore, on questions on which we can disagree without disrespecting the Constitution. Constitution on which, when we disagree, we go to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to elucidate and tell us what is the right path, what is the extent to which we can go and where we must stop. And this present Supreme Court has done some remarkable work on the issues of equality, of autonomy, on human dignity, some remarkable work. But the entire quantity of that, quality of that work on some very fundamental thoughts have to be applied to our daily existence. When someone is locked up, what is the issue of dignity that's involved, and how must we intervene? When there is preventive detention, what is that we must do? When an animal's life becomes more important than a human life, then what is that we must do? How do we apply these wonderful, beautiful, remarkable principles of justice to our daily life is a fundamental question. But a larger question that has emerged from recent judgments of the Supreme Court, and I'll try to make it as non-legalistic as possible, and in the hope that we have two of the finest judicial minds to help us understand this. One is this question of constitutional morality. Supreme Court has said that morality is different from constitutional morality. That's quite easy to understand. Morality is what you can go and find out in the streets. What is it that you believe is the good moral behavior? Most of us in our society share some commonality about what is good morality, how you should behave towards each other, how you should conduct yourself towards each other, what kind of food you should eat, what kind of language you should use, what kind of clothes you should wear. There are some common issues of morality here. What kind of relationships should you have amongst people? Common issues of morality. We all understand them. We may have disagreements, but we all understand them. But this is supposed to be different from what the Supreme Court has said is constitutional morality. So there is something that is available only in the Constitution and not amongst the people. Now, this is an important distinction, because in people's morality can be judged only in terms of a majoritarian morality. How do I believe that this society sitting here has a morality? But by getting you to raise your hands for a particular subject, for a particular formulation. And when you raise hands and you're in the majority, that becomes the morality of the society that's assembled here. But our Constitution says that is only a prima facie indication of what is correct, but it may not be the final indication, because there are some rights called the minority rights. Now, what are these minority rights? Today's exposition of the Constitution in the streets of India, people are saying that minority rights cannot be allowed to prevail over majority rights. They may be right to some extent, that majority cannot be simply ignored because the minority has a view. But the balancing, the careful balancing of a minority's feelings and a majority's feelings is what is called for today. This is significantly what is called for today. But how do you understand what is a constitutional morality is a big question. The constitutional morality is not the morality of the judge. The constitutional morality is not the manner in which the founders of our constitution, the writers of our constitution had imagined. Constitutional morality used by Shri Ambedkar was an attitude towards the constitution that he said people of India will have to develop. The constitution and the attitude we have towards it. That is not what the Constitution speaks as being its morality. The Constitution, as always said, of thought of equality, Article 14 and 15 and 16. But what is equality the judges have interpreted? Somebody who's weak and is seeking equal rights against somebody who's strong. The judges have said the weak must be given extra strength, holding of hand, extra opportunity, so that they can come and compete with somebody who is strong. That's how people become equal, not merely by simply saying they are equal, but ensuring that in the outcome of the decision that is taken, they get an equal opportunity and equal benefit. But they also realize that people differ in their characteristics. So equal opportunity may not necessarily give an equal outcome. Somebody who's more talented will get more marks. Somebody who's less talented will get less marks. But if somebody gets less marks, not because of lack of talent, but because of lack of opportunity of education, then you have to give them some compensatory marks, is what the judges have said. Now, what has happened today is that there is this developed idea called constitutional morality. But what worries some people, I have some explanations, but this is not the time for it. What worries some people is that there is a danger that constitutional morality will either become a plaything in the hands of judges, or that constitutional morality will become an interpretation of the majoritarian view of morality. Constitutional morality that is not affected by a majoritarian view necessarily, or at least definitively, or constitutional morality that is not necessarily the morality felt by a judge alone, is the big question. And as we deal with these questions about violation of the Constitution, I believe our battle is not enough to protect the Constitution in its physical form. We have to protect the Constitution in its philosophical form, in its spiritual form, and therefore we must truly understand the Constitution. We must truly understand what is being interpreted by the Supreme Court and called constitutional morality. And only then will we be in safe hands. What is the relationship between the morality of the people and the morality of the Constitution? What is the meeting point? This is an important question that we have to answer for ourselves. And then finally, I just want to say one thing. I belong to a political party. We have a political program. We combat and we fight with what we believe is politically wrong, policies that we believe are not in the interest of the nation, not in the interest of people, and certainly not in the interest of our future and the future children to be born. We would take up positions there. But there is an important message for us, and I hope that you will give us this message, that it is not enough for us merely to be critical of those who are in power, to say you are doing wrong, that you are taking away our right to speech, that you are destroying our institutions, that you are compromising the institutions that are supposed to adjudicate the future and the destiny of our people, including the judiciary. But we must also very categorically come clean and say, if we are in power, if you have faith in us, and you put us in a position to look after your destiny, what we are complaining of today will not happen tomorrow. It can't be that my emergency is good, but your emergency is bad. It can't be that my placing restrictions on freedom is good, but your placing restrictions on freedom is bad. I must be able to say today that if we come to power, this will not happen. And if we come to power, this will certainly happen. These are fundamentals, and therefore we must understand what is pseudo-morality, what is false morality, what is true morality, what is the philosophical morality that is the basis of our Constitution. And we must come clean and say, whatever be the cost to us personally, that is something we promise you we will uphold, because we owe it not to ourselves alone, but we owe it to generations that will come. We owe it to the people, we owe it to the Constitution, and we owe it to the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.